I just pinched myself with the repair magnets right when I'm trying to make a little video about a little tip I'm going to show you about repair magnets. And the dang things pinched me and it caught me. I'm going to get a Band-Aid and I'll be right back. Well, here's an instrument that you don't see often. It's an Earthwood Bass made in the early 70s by Ernie Ball and George Fullerton. George had left the Fender Company in 1970. At the same time, Ernie was looking at the Guitar-Ron, that big fat 6-string bass used in the Mexican mariachi bands. Ernie thought, we have an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar and an electric bass. Why don't we have an acoustic bass? So in '72, he and George got together and made the Earthwood Bass, and this is an early one. The trouble with this one is that the bridge had warped and curled up on the edges from the movement of the top, and it needed to be removed and replaced. Also, it needed a little rebracing on the inside. I'll tell you about that in a minute, but first let me show you how to keep from hurting yourself with magnets like I just did. They can be tough to get apart and they'll clack together if you're not careful like you just saw, and you can pinch yourself real good. If you have dry skin like I do in the wintertime, it gets even harder to push these things apart. So I made a little tool, I call it a magnet separator, that's got a couple of pins on it to catch the magnet on, and then I can just slide it off. Just a piece of wood with a couple of pins in it. That's an 1/8 inch pin that's going to hold the little 1/2 inch magnets, and this is a 3/16 inch pin to hold the big ones. Once it's on the pin, you can just slide one magnet off the other. Here's one on the edge of the bench. That works good too. Now if you have a handle on your magnets, it's easier to pull them apart, but not if you stack them up like 2 or 3 of them for extra power like I'm doing here. Then I'll use my separator to get them apart. Here's some photos that I took when I worked on this job. To start with, I looked inside in my mirrors and I could see that there were 2 Barkasberry hot dot pickups, these are the old transducers, inlaid into the top or into the bridge. To see where they were from the outside, I put a magnet on the inside and one on the outside and slid up against the pickup. In the photo you can see that little Q-tip is pointing right where the hot dot is. You can see the hot dot wires coming out of there, and you can see the bracing. In my opinion, it's way too weak and kind of a strange bracing to begin with. It comes from the outside towards the center, and it meets up against this little plywood bridge plate. On a Martin guitar, for example, or traditional steel strings, you have X braces under there for strength. This was the opposite. It pumped up and down like a trampoline. I can't imagine that the bridge could stay on. Once the bridge was off, I used repair magnets to locate the braces that were in there. And on the outside, I used a straight edge, and I lined them out so I had a little picture in my mind that I could see of where these braces were. I also removed the bridge pad because it was glued in with a real dry, crispy kind of glue. I could get my fingernails underneath it, and it actually came out pretty easy. To reinforce the top, I took a piece of 100 thousandths thick, good hard mahogany, and I cut 3 rabbets into that and glued in 1/4 sawn braces. This put braces where they really weren't before and strengthened the top. I glued that up, and when it was dry, then I glued the entire thing in at once. This may seem sort of radical, but believe me, I thought about it long and hard before I did it. Even my longest clamps had trouble reaching that far back, and I couldn't get enough in the first place. So I made this one-time use Caul. Looks like a little airplane, and it's fit onto the bridge plate. It's got some 632 threaded rod and some Gibson thumb screws here. This goes back and screws against an acrylic guard on the top to protect the top and holds the bridge plate up inside. And it rests right over the braces and is going to clamp it in place. And there we are, all clamped up. I've got 7 clamps in there, and it's clamped in a V pattern. And here's the Caul that I'll glue the bridge on with. It's the same Caul that I used earlier that fits over the braces in there on that bridge plate that I made. But I've added these Cauls to the top, again with the thumb screws that'll press it down to the top. And that glues that area, and it saves me on trying to get clamps in there as well. When you put on a new bridge, you want to line it up to the center line of the neck. That's what I'm doing with the string here, or else you'll glue it on crooked. And the magnets are great for that because it holds it firmly in place, especially when you stack them up like that.